So here we go. This is Mitch for Indigenous Insights. Once again, I'm at the Immersion program at the KBIC Cultural Building here in Baraga, but the class is through the Bay Mills Community College. I've been a student now for years. I like to really get my class experience in there. I'm here with
Michele Wellman-Teeple.
And why don't you explain a little bit about your job position through the Bay Mills Community College?
I'm the assistant director for the Anishinabe and Panay Immersion program. So I basically take care of the administrative side of things for our immersion program. And we have 3 sites here in Baraga, over at Bay Mills, and down in Harbor Springs in the tip of the mitten. I do registrations. I make sure that everybody has their proper paperwork submitted for their tribal scholarships or things that they need to get for the tribe. We have to have all of those same things over in our student records. And then I also get to take turns teaching with our fluent speaker teachers when we have our classes over at the local BMCC site.
Very cool. And you like to use the, how do you say his first name? I always said Neoxet, but...
Neachit is how he says it, so I try to say it like he says it. Neachit, gray morning. I think Neachit means gray morning. So
okay.
At least that's what it looked like from his paperwork. So the method that Dr. Neachit Gray Morning developed is called the Accelerated Second Language Acquisition Method. I, as a learner and a teacher, try to stick with an immersion style of delivering lessons when I'm teaching here in the immersion classes. So I like Dr. Neachit's method because you don't use any English, you don't translate. That's one of the main rules, that you don't ever translate when you're doing his lessons. And it uses a series of what he calls skill sets, which are pictures that start with just one word picture, or a picture that you can describe with one word, I should say, nouns. The second set of pictures is a 2-word sentence, a living being doing something. When you get to the third set, then you're getting into phrases that include the location that things are happening, or that somebody is at, or something is at.
And when you mean location, it's like it could even be on top of or under, behind.
Right, yeah, that's what we're talking about. So we have, I forget how many pictures now, 30-something or maybe 40-something pictures of...
Which can be translated to how many different phrases.
Right, yeah, so we also I try to include other details in these pictures, so as we get further into other skill sets, we can go back and add more to the easier skill sets as we learn to say more. And so the students, when our other teachers are doing the immersion style that Panay has developed, it's primarily storytelling, and they aren't forcing the students. That's one of the guiding principles for the immersion style that Panay uses, is that we don't force the students to speak. In the ASLA method, I don't force students to speak, but I encourage it.
Yeah.
And make it a game and make it fun. And I think when the students see me struggling sometimes with words and getting help from the first speakers, then they don't feel so self-conscious. At least that's what I hope is happening.
So it's about almost like at least try to make a sound. It's not about pronouncing it perfect.
Right, yeah. I mean, when you think about one of the other things that we talk about with the Panay program is that when babies are learning their first language, it takes 2,000 hours for them to be able to understand. So by the time a child has been born up to his about 2.5 years of age, that's when they've been listening for 2,000 hours.
Yeah.
So they should understand most of what they hear. And in between that, newborn time and that 2.5 years, they're starting to learn how to make sounds, and then intentionally making sounds to form words. So,
usually to say they want something.
Right. Or they need something.
Yeah.
And so
it's kind of like it is immersion, but it's more of a directed immersion.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're going to keep you here for a bit. We'll kind of go into that a little bit more because that's a really cool way because you get into the language circles, there's always kind of the academic world versus the immersion world, but that's kind of a blending of the two.
Right, I think it is. And I think as I've been doing research about learning language acquisition and language teaching and learning methods, different methods sort of work different parts of your brain. And we've talked about that before, where the immersion style is filling up that language acquisition device that all of us have for languages that we're hearing and learning. So we're absorbing and building our understanding in the Panay style. When we're doing the ASLA, the Accelerated Second Language Acquisition style, you're using a different part of your brain to form speech and sound, and also seeing pictures in combination with that. So it sort of pulls both together, like you said, as kind of a combination of these different ways of acquiring language. And that's another thing that both styles talk about acquisition versus learning. And you mentioned academic versus acquisition. So to me, when you say academic, I'm thinking you're talking about learning a reading and writing system and grammar and orthography. And I tried to study Anishinaabe and went in that method. And I could tell you about the language, but I couldn't speak the language and really understand when some fluent speaker, if they tried to talk to me, it would take, I'm still translating in my head. And when you're translating in your head, that's a learning way that you're doing versus if you're just understanding what's being said, you don't have to translate.
Yeah, for me, a really good way to measure that for myself is with numbers. Like you can ask somebody, well, what is Niijwaswe? And then if they have to count up to that to say 7, then you know that they just memorize that order. But if they can kind of know where 7 is at, because you know where 7 is at according to numbers in English, like you know exactly where 26 is at, and you don't have to count up all the way up to that. So or adding numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of that brain working.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about the skill sets here, but we're going to get into some music on Indigenous Insights. Can we keep you here for a bit?
Sure.
Very good. We'll be back. All right, we're back here on Indigenous Insights. This is your host, Mitch. I'm here along with
Michele Wellman-Teeple.
And we are talking about Gray Morning's what was the acronym?
ASLA.
And that's the Accelerated Second
Language
Acquisition process. And you're mentioning that there's skill sets that the students will kind of work their way through. Let's go right to the beginning just to kind of give a preview to the listeners. What's that first skill set all about?
So the first skill set is the only place where he says you have to memorize if you have no exposure to whatever language you're trying to learn. So the first skill set is just nouns. So it's 4 of each thing. So 4 people, 4 methods of transportation, 4 animals, and 4 just ordinary objects that you could find almost anywhere.
Okay, so for your first skill set, what are your objects that you stick with?
First objects that I used are pubwin, a sin, tigons, and kick.
And just a quick, it's breaking the rules of immersion, but for the non-speakers and non-learners out there, those are?
So pubwin is a chair. No, I forgot what I said. Sin is a stone or a rock. Tigons is a stick. And then kick is a pot or a bucket or a pail. So
these are words that someone would use normally?
Yeah, pretty much every day. And you don't want to pick a noun that's really complicated, like badakajigan, or something that's got a lot of the same sounds in it, and you feel like you're stuttering when you're saying it or stumbling over it. So we try to stick with, 2-syllable words or...
All right, so then the first skill set's those nouns, and then the second just kind of builds upon those nouns?
Yeah, so for the second skill set, actually the second skill set is using the animal words from the first skill set and the people words from the first skill set. So the first people words are nene, kwe, guizans, and quezans. So man, woman, girl, child. Girl, boy, girl. And so then you have a picture of those different people, just one in the picture, doing a simple action. So it's an action that is, to get linguistic, is not a transitive action. So the action doesn't transfer to something else. You're just talking about someone doing something. So, and then madabet, the man is sitting. Kwezens nime, the girl is dancing. Guizens neba, the boy is sleeping. So you stick with maybe 5 or 6 verbs, and then after everybody's got the idea of what the first few verbs are, then you add pictures of the animals doing those same verbs that you started with. So then you go to makwa neba, the bear is sleeping. And nemush neba, the dog is sleeping. Gashak b'mipto, the cat is running. What did I do with the deer? I can't remember what I had the deer doing. So I should pull my pictures out. And then you, as everybody understands the nouns and then the verbs that you add, then you add new verbs in, and then you can add new nouns in. So then we add in maybe wabus. And then in later skill sets, I add in old man and old lady.
Oh, yeah.
Or baby. Baby was the one I added in skill set too. So benoji wisne, benoji bakpe.
Yeah. And then at that point, students should be able to go and join any of the phrases from any of the folders, right?
Right.
And that's the thing. It's sort of, I mean, I remember when I went to his workshop, he said, you can't help but learn the language in this process.
Right.
So for those people out there looking to learn the language, get into classes and whatnot, this is a really good way to get that, the immersion, sitting here listening to stories, but then that learning process, it really is, if you put yourself through that process, you're gonna learn.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people out there that somehow will pick up the language, same thing with music. They just know it. They just know it after hearing it once. And if you don't have that kind of brain, this process, it doesn't matter. You will learn the language.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's surprising to some of our students as I've been putting this system to work, and because of the Panay principle of not forcing people to speak, at first I just try to call students up who are willing to try talking. Yep. And like you said, I don't try to make them pronounce everything perfectly. I don't worry about that. You don't force a child when they're learning to speak to say everything perfectly.
At least the sound.
Right. If they're on the right track, trying to make the sound, and they know what they mean by the sound, and you can tell,
And that's what communication is. I mean, that's what speaking is, communication. If they know your intention,
right,
that's where it starts.
Yeah, so I call up some of those students who are a little more shy, and rather than try to get them to talk, I just say, okay, I'll say the words and you just show me what I'm saying, and they can do it. A lot of them have gone through the whole first skill set after just a couple of times of seeing the other, less shy students do it.
And then, like anything to those shy students, as they get worked through, the confidence will build, and then pretty soon they'll be able to teach other people, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those old things that I had seen in different teacher ed classes that I've been in. You learn 10% of what you read and 50% of what you say, and then when it gets to the 90 percentile, you learn 95 or 99% of what you teach. So if you can turn around and teach what you've learned, then you know it. I
wonder what, in academia when you're learning and the percentages of how much you pick up, I wonder what the percentage is for that learning process and how much of those words you will learn and then retain over time.
Yeah, I think that there has been some study on that with other languages, and when people use these different methods, so if you use that conventional way of trying to teach reading, writing, and grammar, and the structure of a language, you might turn out someone who is a really good reader of the language, even though they don't know what they're saying. And that's how I was in French. I could read really good in French. I could read German. I understood more German because I studied it longer in that way. But when you're also thinking about the way a person acquires language, we aren't able to turn around and repeat everything our teachers say, but we can understand a lot more of what they say as we're building up our listening time. So that's the primary focus for the Panay program, is to build up listening time to that 2,000 hour mark and beyond. And then when you're getting to the point where you want to try speaking, then the teachers, you can ask them, help me. I asked them a while ago, correct me, because now that I'm starting to take turns teaching, I know that I'm still making mistakes with tenses, or it's like I get nervous and I want to, get all this stuff in there and get these students talking. So I'll mess up endings and things. And so I tell them, correct me. Mm-hmm. Because if I teach you the wrong way to say something, and then you go and start talking to people, and they're like, what is he talking about? They're not going to understand you. And you have other fluent speakers, coming in and out of different environments that you're in. So you want to be able to communicate with those other ones.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way it seems to go, because, I'll sit and watch the first speakers sitting there, and even Howard, and they'll all discuss words amongst themselves. So it's an ongoing process.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing too that I find fascinating is like we've gotten materials from the Western speaking area, like Minnesota, Wisconsin, over that way. So it's a different dialect. I think they speak more slowly, and to me sound more sing-songy. Mm-hmm. It's more pretty to me to listen. Not saying that this language isn't beautiful, hearing our speakers who teach, who are from Wiki.
It fits the joke telling. Yeah. It fits joke telling, I think. That's what I think. Like the Western is more sing-songy, and it's kind of like crowd speaking and more romantical almost, but then I think that the Odawa, it's like they're telling jokes, and I like it.
They like to share a lot of humorous stories. So, so now when I'm taking turns, if I'm not doing the ASLA method or some other method that I've picked up, from other workshops, I will try to do stories. I can't do them maybe as long as they do them, but I usually try to tell funny stories. Sometimes there's serious stuff too, and in the wintertime they'll maybe share stories that have a cultural, what's the word, cultural theme, or something about Nanabojo, or how something came to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the old school stories. You never really know what you're going to get. They tell a wide range of stories here. Mm-hmm. A wide range of stories. Even if it's just like a movie they watched. Yeah. I remember they're sharing about a movie about World War II in Japan. They're telling a story about that one time.
Yeah, and when the program was fairly new, the ladies who were teaching at the time, they acted out the whole movie Misery with James Caan and Kathy Bates. Wow. Yeah, that was like dinner theater.
Yeah, we need to get these ladies a show. We need to get them on cable TV at least, or streaming.
Something, yeah.
Like a niche Saturday Night Live language special.
Right.
So for people looking to get into the program, once again, you said there's multiple locations for Immersion, here in Baraga, in Bay Mills, and then Petoskey?
Petoskey, Harbor Springs, yeah.
So for people looking to get more information, where can they look?
They can look at the bmcc.edu site and look for me, or you can contact me via email, mwellman, WELLMAN, at bmcc.edu. So you can email me there. You can call the college, 800-844-2622 is the 800 number. And we do have a BMCC Facebook page, so you can look on there, and should be some information. You might have to scroll a little bit, but we're going to be getting information onto that really soon about the summer programs and just our Panay immersion programs in general. So
okay, very good. And then here in the KBIC, I have funding that helps me go to class. You guys have some different options there on campus.
Yeah, for the on-campus classes, if you have half your credits on campus, then you can probably be eligible, if you're a member of a federally recognized tribe, for our Board of Regents tuition award, which is like Bay Mills Community College's version of the tuition waiver that you can get at public universities here in Michigan. The thing that's better, I think, at BMCC as far as the tuition award goes is that it's not reliant on blood quantum.
Okay.
That blood quantum thing irks me.
Yeah, we could do a whole another segment on blood quantum.
Yeah, but there might be bad language involved.
I can beep it out. I'll go beep them out.
I don't want to talk in front of the babies about stuff like that, but it just makes me mad. The teachers even, and the students who used to come from Canada, they would mention that they'd have to bring their blood quantum letter, and that has nothing to do with going across that border. So that really, really upsets me when we start talking about blood quantum. And so if you want to register and attend at the Bay Mills Community College site, if you're a member of a tribe, then you should be eligible, and I think it's up to a certain number of credits. And also people they might be eligible for Pell Grant money. So if you're not a member of a federally recognized tribe, a U.S. tribe, you can maybe get some help that way. There is also American Indian College Fund scholarships that all of our students, no matter where they're registered, can apply for, and there's scholarships through that program that are either for part-time or full-time students. So anybody who's in any of our classes can apply, and I think it might be getting a little more competitive, but it's also
which is a good thing,
right? But I think it's also the American Indian College Fund tries to support everybody. You know? So if you apply, you stand a pretty good chance of getting one of those scholarships. I mean, it's not a whole lot of money, but every little bit helps.
Oh yeah, for sure. So this is the last thing then, and I gave the same same venue, I guess, to the first speakers here. There's a lot of people out there that haven't started their journey learning the language. There's some people that are even timid and they don't want to use the language. This is your chance to recruit more students. What do you have to say to those people that haven't really started that journey yet? Why is it important for them to get moving on the language?
Well, because our language is important. It's part of our identity and who we are as a people. Some people would call it a sacred sound, but it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
To be here and to be hearing these stories, and
fulfilling is the word I'd use.
Yeah, I think it's very fulfilling. It just, to me, when I started on that journey a long time ago, I just felt like it really helped me to feel an inner strength in my identity as an Anishinaabe person that I maybe was not as certain about until I started getting into that. It's just fun. I don't know.
You got to do it to know it. I mean, once you get on that path, you just really feel it.
Yeah.
That's the same we were talking about. It's like it reawakens something that you didn't even know was there.
Yeah, and I've seen that in students who come, because we do offer like just 1 credit introductory classes that we incorporate to see if people, if they just want to try it out. Because when you look at the program, our program is longer than for like a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, 2,000 hours.
Yeah. So actually, it comes out to 3,720 contact hours if you do the full 6 years.
Yeah.
So 1 credit, 15 hours. So students can come for 5 Tuesdays per semester to our on-campus class, or they could probably even sign up here, and just come for 15 hours and listen. And I've had students who have done that, and they're like, I want more. Oh, yeah. So they do want to come back and sign up, just this last school year, we had somebody start, and now she's in the summer class, and then she's, she signed up for 1 credit. Actually, she did all 3 1-credit classes, so she was there for every Tuesday that we have class, because we have weekday classes on campus. And then spring semester, she was there for all the Tuesday, Wednesday classes, so a 6-credit class. Now she's in a 6-credit summer class. And
so there you go for people out there that are kind of hesitant. I mean, it's just one of those things that once you're in, it just gets you, and you just want to do it. So take that first step. Get a hold of Michele, get a hold of the BMCC, get in the class, start learning your language, look up those resources. There's resources all over the place. You just got to kind of get up and do it. It's like hauling wood. Haul the wood. Get the work done.
Right.
All right, well, we thank you very much for sitting with us, and we'll talk to you again.
All right. Thanks, Mitch.
Miigwech.
Miigwech. Bama. Bama pi.